Welcome to the first episode of a book series where I'll be sharing the most interesting points from a book that I have read. This will not be just a book summary because it also has my perceptions and insights about specific lessons from the book. We will start this series with Outliers, the story of success by Malcolm Gladwell. Outliers in this context are the best in the best. They are exceptional and stand out from the crowd. Gladwell starts by asking what is the difference between those who do something special with their lives and everyone else. Why do some people achieve far above average results while others achieve nothing? I will divide this book into two main ideas, and to help visualize them, I have came up with this formula. Success equals effort, opportunity, and other factors. The first idea is effort. The second idea is opportunity and other factors. Let's start by exploring the idea of effort, which Gladwell also refers to as meaningful work. Do you believe that talent guarantees success? Do you think that people like Bill Gates, Mozart, the Beatles got to the top just because they have supernatural talents that we don't have? Well, Gladwell argues that having a innate ability, or in other words, a talent, is not a determining factor in achieving success. This book was published in 2008, and you have probably heard of the 10,000 hour rule because it has become quite popular over the years. In short, it says that you need 10,000 hours of focused practice to become an expert in your field. This is interesting because we believe that people born with talent don't have to try to learn things. In one study, they did research on this subject by dividing a school of violinists into three groups: the okay players, the good players, and the exceptional players. They wanted to know if the exceptional players didn't train so hard and only had stood out because of their talent. So they asked everyone the following question: how many hours of practice have you dedicated to playing the violin since the first time you picked one up? The okay players had answered that they had spent about 4,000 hours practicing, the good players about 8,000 hours, and the exceptional players 10,000 hours. The exceptional players were the best at violin, not just because of their talent, but because they had spent more hours learning and practicing. In case you're wondering, getting that many hours would take about 4 hours of practice for 7 years. But I don't want you to get stuck on that number, because the message that matters is that if you want to stand out from the crowd, you have to practice, you have to gain experience. The Beatles played over 1,200 times, shaping their talent from 1960 to 1964 before they came to America. Mozart, who was undoubtedly talented, started composing at age 5, but his first masterwork was composed at age 21. Many other examples in the book show that experts have much more practice time, and that's what people don't see. They don't see the hard work and believe it was all an overnight success. Moving on to the second idea of opportunity and other factors. Other factors at first may sound very vague, but some examples of what Gladwell considered were culture, intelligence, family environment, social status, date of birth, among others. Gladwell argues that the self-made concept is a myth. People cannot achieve success alone because success depends on several factors. In addition, each factor has its own advantage and disadvantage. Let's take an example from the book about Bill Gates. Bill Gates was born into a family with good financial conditions and went to a private school. The private school had a computer room before any other school had access to computers. Bill Gates became so fascinated with the machine that he spent hours and hours learning how to use it. At 13, he wrote his first software program and started helping companies to develop their softwares. In 1975, he dropped out of college to found Microsoft. Of course, his story is summarized, but if we could highlight some points, we will see that he had the advantage of his family being able to afford a private school. He had the benefit of being able to study programming during a decade where nobody had access to computers, and that was during the late 60s and early 70s. But he also had the opportunity of developing his skills because he had put in hours and hours of hard work practicing and dedicating himself to learn how to program. Another case from the book is about some law firms in New York City. The biggest firms that today dominate the city are Jewish firms, but it wasn't always like this. There was a time where there was a lot of prejudice and anti-Semitism. Very intelligent and qualified Jews were coming out of universities like Harvard and graduating at top of the class, but they couldn't find a job in big law firms. They were discriminated against because of their faith. The only option was to work for the smaller firms and take cases that the big guys didn't want. Those cases were litigation and company takeovers, which is when one company tries to gain control of another company. The big law firms of the time thought that these cases were disrespectful, so they didn't accept them. What happened was that around the 1970s, these corporate acquisitions became very popular, highly valued, and profitable. When several corporations started looking for law firms to handle these cases, who do you think was an expert in the matter and had much more practice time? Those Jewish firms. Being Jewish was a disadvantage at the beginning. No one expected a hidden opportunity when they were forced to specialize in a type of case that no other firm wanted. And basically, that's how they came to have a great deal of success. There are several other cases and several other factors that Gladwell points out throughout the book. But I can say that for me, the biggest takeaway is that effort in the end will always pay off. Of course, some people will have much greater results and rewards than others due to all the factors they have accumulated throughout their lives. Still, nothing wrong can come from hard work. Being the best of the best in the world must be incredible. But you know what else must be incredible too? Knowing that you have explored your full potential and that you have mastered your craft. And I'm sure that you will see results too. Gladwell describes outliers as those who have been given opportunities and had the strength and presence of mind to seize them. If you like this book club idea, let me know in the comments below. And if you have read this book before, share with us what you have learned. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!